My date of birth is January 31st, 1941. As far as I know, I was born in Springdale. My parents was Ed and Adele Penzo. Well, I have a half-brother, Lloyd Barriolo, has passed away now. And one brother, Eugene, he was right next to me, he's passed away. And there's me, Claude Penzo lives on Harmon Road, and me. Just a little bit of everything, trying to make a living. We raised chickens, planted tomatoes, and milked cows, and grapes, and just everything it was back then. It was the hard times. I know my uncle had strawberries, and we'd go pick strawberries, and I don't know if we got a nickel or probably a nickel a quart to pick strawberries, and we'd go pick green beans and stuff like that. Had to carry water for the chickens. Had two little chicken houses and had 50-gallon wood barrels. You had to carry the water in 5-gallon buckets to keep the chickens in the water, have them something to drink. Well, we had a 50 model Ford pickup, and on Saturday evenings, they'd take us to town. We went to the movie, and then we'd come by the Ellis ice cream parlor and have a ice cream cone or a Coke float, whatever, and then we'd all five of us pile in the back in the truck and come home. The only thing I remember is the Tontitown Mercantile, belonged to Richard Artemani, and it was, I don't remember how many years it was open, but then it was on a grocery store in town at that time. But that was back in the 50s, I think. Well, there was the Venetian, what they called the Venetian Inn. It belonged to Paul and Alice Leatherman. And then Mary Maestries, well, she run it for years, and then I don't know if it was her Danny Maestri, he run it for years, but then finally it went out of business. But anymore, there's not that many. Well, the Venetian Inn is still there. Well, we lived in an old house down there by Harry's Minotto's, and when we moved from there, we moved down here to the old rock house, which was my mother's and her dad's place years and years ago. And we lived there till, I don't know, Joyce and I got married. And then we lived in town for 1 year, and then the rest of the time I've been right here. Well, it belonged to my mother's folks, and there was two brothers, and I can't remember their names, but one of them moved to California, and then the rest of them stayed here. And then when they passed away, my mom got the house, and that's where we lived at. Well, it was made out of old rock that they just dug out of the ground, and the walls were inside probably 2 foot thick, and it was a well-built house. But after years, the weather got to it, and then I know they put a roof on it 1 year, in which I'd have never climbed up there to do that, but because it's too steep. Me and the heights don't get along real good, so, but anyhow, it finally just went to pot, so they had just went ahead and tore it down. Well, we had the nuns up there, and I don't know, it just, sometimes it went good, sometimes it didn't. I graduated from the 8th grade up there, and then that's it. I went to work for Arbor Eckers. I got them put me on a tractor and a brush hogging. I think it was like 280 some acres down there at the time. And they said to brush hog everything, so that's what I did. I go down there and work 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. Well, Jerry Henshaw was the one that was in charge, and they had laying hens, and I think they sold all the eggs. Some of them, the eggs they hatched. A lot of them, they sold the eggs and sold the baby chickens. That operated for quite a few years, and then finally it I know he just went bankrupt. I worked down there about about a year, I think it was, that I worked down there. Well, then I went to work for Tyson's, working up in the chicken plant. I did that for a year or so. And then I got a chance to get on Jones truck line. And I spent 28 and a half years down there at Jones truck line, driving a truck and moving freight and whatever. What we call peddling freight, unloading trucks and loading trucks. Well, when I was working at Jones, Joyce and I, and then my dad still had some cattle, so I got a few and he had a few, and we just tried to make some extra money raising cattle. And then when I retired from Jones, that's what I've been doing for the last, 15 years, raising cattle, cutting hay, doing what I want to do. The only one I ever worked for, I worked for Buster Granada. I'd help him cut silage in the fall, and we'd put it in a pit. Then in the wintertime, they'd take it out with a fork, feed the cattle, and then I'd help him pick up rocks and stumps and whatever. So, but that's about been my deal of working. I don't know, there's Raleigh Tesoro is the only one still left on her from when it started. And I was in it for, 33 years, I think it was. It was all strictly volunteer. Worked at Jones in the daytime, and then at night, we didn't have beepers to tone us out with, so when we first started out, and a few guys had them, so they were the other guys, they'd have to call 3 or 4, and then the other guys would call 3 or 4 more, and that's how we got toned out. They let us know if we had a house fire or grass fire or ambulance call, whatever. Our engine, I think they went to, I can't remember I think it was Midwest City, Oklahoma, I think. And they picked up the first engine down there. It was an old Ford, it was a Ford truck, but back that time, that's all we could afford to buy. And then we had an old truck that we got off of, it was Jones Truck Line. We made a tanker out of it and used those for quite a few years. And then we got money saved up, and they had a board of directors up there. And then they started buying new equipment, and we got real good equipment, still got new equipment up there. It's been a good fire department. Well, our first chief was Jim Miller, and he worked for Springdale, Dwayne Atha. I think he was the second chief. He put in a lot of hours. And then we had Rusty Holtz. He was from Wheeler. And we had another guy, I can't remember his name, but right now Bernard Penalto is the chief, and then the city just hired Todd Witt-Sigmund. So they're both taking care of that job now. Oh, we had a place down there on Javello down there. Used to call it Cherry Hole. We'd go down there and go swimming, playing in the water, and just do what country folks do. Or try to have a good time and stay out of trouble. Really, my mom and dad, they took us, like I said before, they take us to the movie. And then my dad worked in the grape vineyard, and Mom took care of us, and we didn't go very much. Well, he had about 5-6 acres of grapes, and he did all the pruning and tying and everything like that, and then try to raise a few grapes, and then milk 8 or 10 cows. And that's about all we did. There at last. It was a celebration, for what it started out, to celebrate, the grapes and everything. And after the years went by, Welch's went under and they quit. And then the grapes started disappearing, which is, there's not many grapes left in northwest Arkansas or Tontitown anymore. Because Welch's quit buying them. They didn't have no place to go with them, so everybody just pulled them out. Well, first off, this has been years ago. My brother, we helped him park cars, and then worked in the bingo I don't remember what night it was, one night. But I've been working in the kitchen now probably for the last 10 years, 12 years, help them cook spaghetti. Do that on Thursday night. There's about 6 or 7 of us that do that on Thursday night, and then Friday night they got some more, and then Saturday night, same thing. Well, I've never been up there to make spaghetti, but it's a very big deal. There's the women and a lot of the guys, and in fact, they may be up there making it today, I don't know. But usually they seem like it's around, they use probably like 2,000 pounds of flour to make the spaghetti. And it's all spaghetti and flour and eggs. That's all it's made out of. Then they mix it all up and cut it and let it dry, and then they put it in a box. And then they just put it back, and then when the grape festival comes, then we start using it and cooking it. Years ago, we had a stand, just a little building that we used to, I don't remember, there was 12 or 15 of us in there. We cooked hamburgers and served hamburgers at all 3 nights of the festival. It was a lot of work, but we made a little bit of money for the fire department, and then we'd have a pancake breakfast, do that once a year, and then they had a car show. We did that for quite a few years, and then finally they just quit doing it. They got one they call the Bling. It's a small ball, about yay big around, and then you got eight other bigger balls. Some are red and some are black, and you throw this little one down there, and then then you roll your big ones down there and see the ones who can get the closest. But if you get close, then the other ones can knock it away. So it's just it's a lot of fun to play. I've played it, but I haven't did it in years. But and then the city started out 2 years ago having a bocce tournament. So that'll be coming up before too long. Then we have I think this will be 3 years during the Halloween. They have a deal in the park, give out candy for the kids and decorate up in costumes and just have a fun night. Years ago, Leon Zuppel had the filling station up there, and one of the guys had an old pickup, and so we went over to the dump and loaded up the truck, 2 or 3 times. We just took it up there and dumped it. And he couldn't even sell no gas because we had so much stuff around there. Then he had, I don't remember what it was, but somebody come by and offered him something we'd hauled up or that we picked up at the dump, and he offered him $25 or $30 for it, so we sold that to him for $25 or $30. But then the outhouses, they'd go around, and there was one older couple up there, and he knew they was going to push his outhouse over, so he'd stay up all night and keep them run off. Then they waited till he went to church the next morning, then they went and pushed it over when he went to church. It was just, that's what they did, they'd get him every year. His name was High Chola. And they knew he didn't, well, it was all in fun, but they'd just go push it over, and then he'd get it stood up. Well, see, Henry Piazza came to me, and he said, you want to be on the city council? I said, well, I don't know, let me think about it. I said, what do you have to do? He said, nothing. So I can't even remember. I know there was Henry, but I can't remember all the other guys that was on there. But I've probably been on there for 15 years, something like that. But it's changed a lot from when we started. I mean, we got a good council and a good mayor, and I think we did a lot of good things for the city of Tontitown. Well, they built in the park. They put a walking trail in there, put lights in it, built a new pavilion in the park, and put swings up for the kids to go play with. And for the water and sewer, I said, a lot of places don't have sewer, but all the businesses got sewer. We got a lot of city water. Then here in about 2 weeks, they're supposed to open the bid on a water tower. And then they're going to be that hook up to that 2-ton water deal. And that'll provide us with water for years to come. There wasn't as much going on back then when I got on the council. Right now, there's so much more going on. Like I said, the water and sewer and your streets and all the houses being built, and it's just a lot more headaches to take care of. I think it was Dan Watson. He was the mayor when I got on there, I think. And he was a good mayor. And I don't know, then he got sick, and then he eventually passed away. And let's see, Paul Maestri was in there, Joe Edgman, Jack Beckford, and then right now it's Paul Colvin, which it's been a good ride so far. Well, Henry Piazza is the one that got all that started, and I can't remember the man's name that originally built the statue. And then after they got it built, there was Henry and I and Dickie Rosso, and I don't remember who all was there, but we all went up there, and Henry made the forms, and we poured a form and poured the concrete, and then put the marble around it and put everybody's name on it, and just the way it is right there today. The only time this wasn't at the city council, this is about Jerry Henshaw, and they wanted me to say something, but it's right out there behind the city hall in the park there. It's not much of a farming community anymore because a lot of people sold all their land, and a lot of it's going to be built up in houses here in the next few years. So, and eventually we'll have what I've been told, we're going to have a school out here, down there by the cemetery. Assuming we get a few more rooftops. So you got to have kids before they can build a school. So I've lived here all my life, and it's nice and quiet out here. I like it. I mean, this is where I'm born and raised at, and I'm not going to move. This is my home. This is it. I know we're going to get a bunch of houses built around here, and you can't stop progress, so that's the way it goes. Well, this is what I was born and raised at, like I said, and this is my home, and it's changed a lot since I was younger, and I don't know, I just like living out here.